And welcome, everyone. I need to get my camera set correctly there. Make sure the volume is good for you all. Move the mic a little closer here. Well, welcome to this Monday, the 26th of February, Scramblestream this evening, the 31st episode we've done of these. So it's been a pleasure to go along this far with y'all, and looking forward to many more of these. This evening, we've got a really fun program, I think. We've had a lot of news over the weekend, starting with the launch of the all-new Griffin 450, and I think we're going to kind of focus on talking about that this evening, and that'll give us plenty to talk about, plenty of questions to ask, etc. For those of you all who are returning ramblers, I can see in the comments already, y'all know the drill. Tell us where you're from, your name or your handle if you want to, what you're sipping on, and what Janus you own or would like to own. If you don't own a Janus, that's perfectly okay. Aspirations are fine too. Tell us what you ride right now, if anything. Welcome again. And I will start off with, I got a special beverage holder this evening. In honor of the Scramblestream, I've made myself my own motocross boot. Can you see it there? Let's see if I can. This is like a vintage style, buckles up the side. It's got the metal plate on the front, your high point boot. I'm not going to be filling this thing. With beer. We're just going to put a can in. But I'm drinking PBR here in a very balmy and warm northern Indiana today. It's beautiful. There we go. Fill the motocross boot with beer. Not fill it. Maybe we'll get up above the ankle. We'll see how easily a Sharpie marker comes off glass. Shouldn't be that bad, right? Well, there you have it, folks. Cheers. Now, on my angled drafting desk, let's see if it doesn't fall off. Okay. All right. Well, welcome. Let's take a quick look at some comments. Oh, I wanted to say before we get started, we already have 44 people on the stream this evening. It's last week, I believe, was a record 81 people. It's getting a little bit difficult for me to catch all the comments. We are working on a plan to kind of curate comments and maybe have a second person to be able to kind of, I don't want to say pick the best, but at least curate them so that we can not spend the entire first half of the episode reading comments. Because while I really enjoy doing that, and I think that's part of this that's going to continue for as long as we do this, we have to also make good use of your all's time, and it can be a little boring, I think, for everybody. So I'm going to work on trying to, if I miss a comment and it's really important, give me a shout out in the comments, but I'll try and do my own curating in the interim. So anyway, we'll take a quick look at some comments, though, and see what's going on. We've got Scott Spence on. As many of you all know, he has several bikes. He has 250 number 212 and 450 number 178, and he's just up the road in Elkhart. Good to see you, Scott. Mark Stevens, Westland, Michigan, 250 number 643, Jack and Coke. We got Bob Benstead. Good to see you, Bob. Hey, I actually want to talk to you, Bob. I'm going to give you a call. We're, as I think you know, headed out to Sturgis this year and have more questions for you in addition to staying with you with some of the team. So I will be in touch soon, I hope. Bob says he's got 450 number 230, water before supper. He needs updates on the new 450 accessories. Well, I hope to get to that a little bit. Straw Dog, Halcyon 250 number 769 in New Hampshire. Founders Barrel-Aged Nemesis Stout. Greetings to all Founders. You're drinking a local brew there up in Michigan. We got Holly Brantzner, Jeff and Holly from Toledo, 77 and 78 Halcyon 250s. We're both drinking H2O. Well, Holly, this evening I've got a treat for you. We're going to read some Rilke as per your request. I'm not an expert in Rilke, and I went back home and tried to find any Rilke I had. All I have is Letters to a Young Poet. So we're not going to read that in its entirety, but we'll read a good poem, that one of the better known ones that I'm familiar with. Brent Bryan, hello all, Mommy, Ohio, Griffin, 250, 145, pending. We were just talking about your bike today. Great Lakes Brewing Company's Conway Irish Ale. Jordy, 450, number 44, rode 70 miles today in Chicago in February and topped out at 70 miles an hour. Great day. Congratulations, Jordy. Good to see you on, and glad you got that ride in. I walked to work today. I didn't even ride. It was such a pretty day. Independent Metalbug. Hi, Jay from Oregon. Halcyon 250. Jay. That's right. I got to connect Jay and Independent Metalbug. He's a constant Janice Ramblestream viewer and participant. 250 number 164. Black Coffee. Scott. Brent says, the bike or the beer? Charles Selman, Chuck from San Francisco, California. Griffin 250 number 124. Good to see you. I don't know if you've been on before, but I don't recognize the name. Forgive me if I'm forgetting. Welcome. Jim Winters, happy Monday from Indiana Dunes on a nice riding day in February, enjoying a post-ride Two-Hearted. And I think, Jim, did I hear that you've made a new planned addition to your fleet? I'll let you announce that if you want. Jim Bledsoe, beautiful day in Youngstown, Ohio. 62 degrees with the mighty Halcyon 450 number 163. And of course, Gary Smith from East Lansing, Michigan. 250 number 179 Halcyon. Halcyon 450 number 3 and Phoenix 250 number 79. Sipping on some high quality H2O. Darren Price, Daytona Beach, Florida. Halcyon 450 number 260 ordered on Valentine's Day. He's drinking iced tea. Welcome to the stream. It's good to have you, Darren, and welcome to the Janus family. You'll love your 450. Charles, hello from the Eastern Shore, 250, 454, and Phoenix 250, 30, trading in Halcyon 250, 63 on a Griffin 450 number 4 purchase. Congratulations. We've already got one owner in the stream. Great. Paul H., Crested Butte, Colorado, wannabe 450 Halcyon. Fantastic. Welcome. Smoky Mike, here from Wapakoneta, Ohio, enjoying 65 degrees. Man, we're getting some good weather. 250 number 1020. Dan Rademski, good to see you. Western North Carolina. Roger, going on 5 weeks since JM250 1018 was delivered to Sturgis, but can't ride it. Waiting for a speedometer. Well, we'll get you taken care of. Sorry about the wait on that. Mark McGee, good afternoon from Anacortes. Halcyon 250 number 997, Lagunitas Maximus Colossal IPA. Nicholas G., Southeastern Connecticut. Good to see you back on, Nick. Griffin 450 number 2. Nice. Congratulations. Kelly Chrisman, Ramblers 450 number 236, drinking an Orange Crush and eating chips and dip. And I've got a request to turn the mic up. Let's try that. Let me see if I can turn my volume level up here. It's about as high as, it's looking a little I'm going to go over my levels here. So maybe try turning up your volume. I'll talk a little closer to it as well. Riggedy Alps from Mudville, Mass. 60 degrees where everybody's getting it. Halcyon 450 number 234, Polar Seltzer. Jay says Griffin 450 for the win. Nice. Russell Peters, Detlef 450 number 86, sitting in Kalamazoo. Nice. Foxy's on. How's it going, Foxy? Good to see you as always. Mike is super quiet. So this is a YouTube expert here. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, my mic, for some reason, maybe I accidentally, I was on a podcast today and I carried the mic downstairs. So I had to, now let me turn the levels down. The knob on the mic got moved. Thank you all very much. How's that? Let me know if that's any better. Nicholas G says, rubbing alcohol removes Sharpie. Coors Banquet beer here in Texas. Nice. Mark Shannon. Halcyon 250, 408. Michael Webster, interested in the new Griffin and like all of them. Fantastic. Well, we're going to be talking about that this evening. Russell Peters says volume. Thank you all. I think we fixed that. Let me scroll to the bottom. Yeah, much better volume, says Jordy. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Ron says, evening from Florida, sipping coffee. Actually on the Janus website, trying to put together a 250 Halcyon. Well, ask any questions you want. That's a curated question right there for us, for the sales team. So I'll answer that one. Buy a bike, I'll answer that question. Dan says, you hold the boot toes up when a bubble. Oh, I know all about what you do. Y'all want to hear it? Let's put it next to the mic. Somehow when I do that, I want to just pound it. Wonder why. Straw Dog says, thumbs up, subscribe, and share. Thank you, Straw Dog. Absolutely. Remember, I always forget to say that, but thumbs up the video, share it, like it, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the Janus channel. It helps us. Grant's on. He says, Roger, I'm working on this for you right now. Fantastic. Michael Trueblood, hello from Pittsburgh. Halcyon 250, number 249, San Pellegrino. Beautiful day here today. Pedaled 40 miles this afternoon, 3 hours exactly. Nice. Different two-wheeled travel. Holly says, yay. Nice. Keith Haywood, Keith in New York, 706, considering a Griffin 450. Merlot. Kyle Stevens is on. Michael, I think I may have met you at Vintage GP. Awesome. Tom Kimball, great rambling weather in Colorado this weekend. I think we're all getting it. Stopped for fuel, and bam, another curious gawker wanting to know, what is that bike? It's gorgeous. Yep, the Janus delay factor. Tom is on Halcyon 450 Chief, number 192. And Doug Bosch, greetings from Rhode Island, sipping on a heady topper IPA. Halcyon 505. Jordy says, much better on the volume. Yep. Richard Lucy, hey, good to see you, Richard. It's Richard, still in Panama for a few days. Griffin 450 looked great. Thank you very much, my friend. David Hyde, looked for Rumble's Companion. Not yet. Oh, Rambler's Companion? Yeah, it's we're still working on getting it approved at Amazon, but it's coming up, and we have an order in ourselves for our own version, which will be available on the site very soon. Our printer will probably get it out faster, so you can check it out there. But if you wouldn't mind, get on the Amazon, either buy it or comment on it, give it a nice review. It'll really help for us. That's going to be the best way to spread, I think, the Janus philosophy of riding and get more people aware of what we're doing. So we're really hoping to kind of hit the charts, if we can, on Amazon in our little category of motorcycling. 50 degrees today in New Hampshire. I was able to get out for a 30-mile ride. Nice. Foxy says, can't wait to check out the Griffin. Also, I'll be seeing you guys at the expo in March, working with Works Power Sports during that expo. Nice. Way to go, man. Though not sure what they're having me do as of yet. Cool. Jim says, yep, Griffin 450 number 3 will join Halcyon 450 number 150 and Phoenix 78 in my garage this year. Super excited. Congratulations, Jim. That is very exciting to hear. I know you've been thinking about that for a while. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and get started with a poem so that we can dig into the meat of the Ramblestream, the Scramble Stream tonight. Holly, this one's for you. This is Rainer Maria Rilke, the poem called The Rose Window. And this is actually, he did not write in English, so, or at least this poem. So this is translated by Jesse Lamont. I'm afraid my German is not good enough to read it in German. The Rose Window. In there pause with soundless, lazy steps create in stillness a confusing stir. And then how suddenly on one of the cats your glance moves to and fro, and then aware, compellingly, in her great eyes she takes the glance, which, as by a maelstrom caught fast, swims for a little while, and then sinks, and of itself has no more consciousness. When these eyes, which are seemingly at rest, open, and, as with a roar, together close, drawing the gaze into the very blood, so out of darkness, once in times long past, the great cathedral's glowing window rose, thus seized a heart, and drew it unto God. Yeah, my German isn't good enough. I'm sure it's even better in German, but okay. Let's talk about scramblers. But first, let's switch screens here. There we go. So this is a early scrambler. This is a Velocet. Now, this particular bike I bring up first because it's really near and dear to my heart. I've never seen this bike in person, but this was actually an inspiration for our very first scrambler, the Griffin 250. And just because of the way I like the little looks of it and the heritage for me were really interesting. This is based on the Velocet MSS, what was it called? MSS 500. So it's a 500cc Velocet. And this bike that you're seeing here is a really interesting example of what a scrambler is because it's much more off-road capable than what a stock Velocet scrambler from late 50s, early 60s would have looked like. But the aesthetics of this bike and the overall look were really interesting to me early on with the Griffin, and it's really been an inspiration. This bike has been reworked many, many times. The swing arm is not original. I think that's a car suspension strut up underneath the tank, which if you've read our history of the monoshock suspension, you'll know was actually how the first Tilken's suspension system was actually developed. They used a car shock in exactly that configuration. And our Halcyon 450 is speaking to that a little bit, and that's part of the history of our suspension. On the Griffin, however, we've decided to go with a much more traditional, more conventional swing arm type rear suspension with paired shocks. So let's take a quick look now at some other variants of the. Actually, first of all, I'll show you. That's the Velocet right there. That's the stock. Let's get it in the screen here first. That's the stock MSS 500 right there. So that bike we were just looking at, let me pull it up here. This one, that's the same machine, but it's been reworked to be much more capable off-road. You recognize the engine case though. But this is what you would have been able to buy in like 1961 in England. And this would have been a very capable, for the time period, off-road bike. The earliest scramblers were always, or almost always, were a twin or a sibling to a road-going bike, because there really were no dedicated off-road bikes in the first half of the century. It wasn't until the later 60s that the scrambler really started becoming more dedicated. And then in the 70s, when you started seeing the dirt bike start to appear, and then eventually monoshock rear suspension, and the idea of a dirt bike that we think of today with up to 12 inches of suspension travel at the front. Incredible. They can jump 500 feet in the air and not fold when they land. But anyway, yeah, this is a Velocet, a classic British scrambler. And then really even the word scrambler comes from a British concept of hare scrambles, which were kind of like a dirt bike race today, but basically they'd work out a circuit off-road and they would race on it. And the typical scrambler, as I say, was a sibling of a road bike. So essentially what they would do is they would take a BSA, in this case, it's called the Firebird, but they take a BSA road-going bike, they would put maybe some different fenders, or not, on it, maybe a smaller fuel tank, knobby tires, and then they would route the exhaust system high up to get it out of the way of dirt, rocks, water, etc., mud. And there was your dirt bike. Maybe they'd change the handlebars to be a little wider, and that was your dirt bike. And that really is the heritage of the Griffin. The Griffin 250 one could argue, is a Phoenix 250 with a high pipe, raised fenders, knobby tires, and different handlebars. Of course, the tank is a little different too. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit more further forward, so you can put your weight further forward. But I just wanted to just a look. This is actually kind of the inspiration board that I've used over the years for the Griffins and for the 250 and 450. This is another BSA. A little bit more dedicated. You can see this is starting to get I don't have the dates on these bikes, but definitely more in line with what you'd expect from a dirt bike at this point. Now, this is a great one. This is a Sox, so a German brand. It's got a bash plate underneath. It's got the high exhaust. It's got the little tank, knobby tires, the high fenders, wide bars, and look at that front suspension. Recognize that? There's our leading link. And this is something that you will find on a lot of scramblers. Incidentally, early scramblers were some of the most common places you would find a leading link suspension, because they actually did really well until things like really long travel forks were developed as late. I mean, they were better than forks all the way up into the 70s. There was a number of different fork designs. My favorite is called the Thorks, designed by a guy named, I think his name was Thor, but he made this, he's an American who made these aftermarket racing forks that were leading link called Thorks. That was really cool. They were quite popular for a while. As a kit you could buy. Here's a lovely Ducati. And I'm not an expert on Ducatis, so I don't know the difference between this tank and the more common scrambler tank that you're going to see. This is a 250. So basically, this is a Ducati without the second cylinder. You can imagine that L, the second cylinder coming off the front. But a little classic scrambler, and this is what the Ducati based their new scrambler off of. Of course, then they missed the point by making it like, 800 cc or 1200 now? Not a lightweight bike. That's one of the things you're going to see on all these scramblers is these are mostly 500 cc's. Although some of these, that one's probably 250 or 300. It's a two-stroke. This Ducati is a 250. I love that fuel tank. Look at that tank and the logo on it. Husqvarna, they're using at this point, what were they? I guess were they making their own motors? A two-stroke, high pipe, gorgeous bike. Somebody's replaced the plastic fender. Do you recognize that fender brace for the front fender? That's a Griffin. We use a very similar to the old Husqvarnas. And then, of course, you got your classic desert sled Triumph. Now, the desert sled is, I'm not sure on the exact definitions of these things, but in my experience, desert sleds are typically heavier bikes. This one's probably a 650. Big bikes. I mean, a Triumph is a big bike. It's heavy. And they were more appropriate for ripping through the desert, not so much like single track or hare scrambles or trials riding. This is a neat bike. I don't know if you've ever seen a Bridgestone. So Bridgestones are not a Bridgeport. It's a mill. Bridgestone is today we think of the tires, but back in the day, they made a lovely two-stroke 350 and with a very strange tank. Really attractive looking, I think, but very different. People really loved these, but they were also supplying tires, and I think they rankled some of the competition, so they decided to stick with tires. There's that Velocet back again. What a beauty. Another Velocet. I'm not sure on the exact story with this one, although I do notice, very interestingly, that that's an adjustable rear shock. So you can adjust the angle of that rear shock forward and backward. Pretty neat. That looks like not a 500. That's a small engine. There's another Velocet. There's that one we were talking about. 500cc scrambler. Gorgeous bike. Not a whole lot of travel on that. You're looking at that rear wheel has probably got 2 or 3 inches. And I don't know what the front forks do. Another one. Just a beauty. You can see that's a plunger rear suspension. So, is it a plunger? It's got a swing arm, but a very early one. Kind of a conversion Triumph bobber. I don't know why I've got that in there. This is a matchless scrambler. Beautiful engines. But you can see these are lightweight bikes that are appropriate. I mean, it's like a dirt bike. You don't want to be riding around on A big, heavy 400-pound bike when you're a 500-pound bike off-road, you can't pick it up or balance on it as easily. An AJS, stunning. And you're looking at all these bikes are 500cc. And so 450 is a perfect category. And they're all putting out minimal horsepower, just enough torquey motors for off-road use. There's your Ducati Scrambler. So this is more of the tank that the modern Ducati is based on. They kind of emulated this tank. Just a little bike though, 250. Nothing like the new Ducatis. This is another Sox with a leading link front end. Oh, so cool. Look at that tank. Is gorgeous. Look at that thing. Did KTM, use Sox engines early on when John Penton was getting started with them. The Pentons used a Sox, I think. I want to say they did. Beautiful bikes. Another Ducati. Look at that Ducati. Gorgeous. Another Ducati. Somebody's kind of cafe'd that one. Ducati. Another Ducati. Husqvarna that's been modernized with a monoshock. There's another Husky. There's your classic kind of like Steve McQueen Husqvarna. And there you see, I don't know if you all can see that front fender brace. We kind of stole Husky's idea there. It's a great idea. Nice, good support. Although I like their mud flap on the front. We should do something like that. That's a practical service. If you run into something, it doesn't bend your metal fender. Of course, when plastic fenders came out, they replaced that need for that. Another Husky. This is a Ducati. This is a Harley Davidson that built well. They make our foot pegs and grips built for off-road racing. Got to be a heavy bike. And those of you who know me know that I love my KLR. So I've thrown in some modern dual sports. There's the KLR Gen 1. That's probably a 2000 or something like that. I've actually been recently thinking about selling my Gen 2 KLR and going back to a Gen 1. The Gen 1 for me takes the cake. This is a Suzuki DR650. Another popular modern, what I would put in that kind of scrambler class. The dual sport is really a new breed, but one that I think we want the new Griffin to be able to kind of play in that dual sport adventure motorcycle category. And so we're looking at them. This is kind of the granddaddy of adventure motorcycling. When BMW launched the GS back in the 80s, was it late 70s? I can't remember. This was the kind of the first bike that kind of took on that nerdy, do everything category of the dual sport motorcycle, and they still dominate the adventure riding with the GS line. Kind of a custom GS. There's a classic GS. Look at that thing. Not necessarily the best bike for dirt biking or single track, but a great adventure bike. And by adventure bike, I mean a bike that can mostly do highway, but can do just about anything. So if you want to ride around the world, many people have done it on a GS. It's an R80 GS. So basically, that's their R80 model, and it's a scrambler in some ways. It's BMW fell into the adventure riding category because they had big bikes that they could not make a bike that was going to be a dirt bike necessarily with their big boxer engine, but they could make this sort of do-it-all bike. And I think they kind of created that adventure category. An OSSA, quite a seat. What is this one? That's a what is that? It's one of the. I'm blanking on the name. Y'all gonna have to remind me. Totally blanking on the name of that. Montesa. There we go. Montesa, famous scrambler and trials bike. They really went to the more extreme version of scrambling. Look at that front fender. It's all plastic, droopy, so that it can fall over and not get damaged. So you have dirt bikes, you have motocross, you have rally bikes, and then you have trials bikes. And trials bikes really, I think, maybe are more of like the natural offshoot of hare scrambles, in the sense that a trials event would be one where It's not going the fastest. It's all about technical ability and getting through these really difficult courses without touching the ground, with balance. That's really where the International 6 Days Trial made a big name for itself. John Penton, that's where KTM comes from. That's where a lot of dirt bikes kind of got started. And the modern trials bikes are very different looking than a dirt bike, but they've become much more specialized. And I think that's what we're seeing with the Scrambler. Is the initial Scrambler just wasn't as specialized. It was like the ugly twin of the road bike, and they just did these minimal things to make it a little different, a little bit better. And then gradually motorcycles got more and more and more and more and more specialized. So you have trials bikes, you have rally bikes, you have adventure bikes, you have motocross bikes, you have even different kinds of motocross of motorcycles that are set up differently to do different things. Flat track, they're now using dirt bikes for flat track, and I'm sure that's influencing how flat track works. But anyway, I think our Griffin, which we're going to talk about, I promise, this is not exactly a scrambler, but it's a pretty bike. Look at that. There's a Bultaco, another fantastic Spanish brand. Look at that. Gorgeous machine. Much more dirt bike-like at this point. This is an early, this is probably a trials bike, beginning of one. Another Bultaco. And then you can see the Bultacos are famous for flat tracking. So this is kind of moving toward a flat track bike. Does it even have a front brake? Nope, no front brake. So yeah, this is for flat tracking. More of them. Another beautiful Bultaco. Look at that bike. And guess what this is? It's an SWM. This is an SWM trials bike. So you're starting to see the seat becoming less and less important. People don't sit down when they try, they balance. Giant bash plate and incredible ground clearance. I mean, that's got to be like 18 inches of ground clearance there. So you can hop off of rocks and over trees. Then we're back to some BSAs. That's really channeling what we're trying to do. Another BSA, a Cotton, and then you got your classics, your CL350 Honda. So, and that's a classic scrambler. It's a CB350 with a little bit different gearing, high pipes, and I don't know, not much else different. Cafe'd out one. Not really a scrambler. Suzuki. And then that lovely Ducati tank. So, and then of course we got to end it on the granddaddy of cheap dual sport riding, the 1987 KLR 650, my favorite. I had one of those, and it got stolen. Very sad. But yeah, maybe I'll get another one of these days. All right, quick, what time we got? We were running out of time, man. I'm not going to have time to get through all these comments, I promise, because I really want to cover the Griffin 450. Let's see, let's just kind of skim it here. Maybe we can get through them. Not a whole lot of comments. We got 82 people on right now. Hey, it's a record. Thank you all. Kelly, beautiful, thanks. 450. Jay says, always wanted a BSA 500 MX. Nice. Joel. Hey, Joel. Halcyon 450 number 218, old man. Joining late. Jay says, Greaves leading link. Yep, you got it. No, they weren't the only ones. One of these days, we'll do a whole episode. Very soon, maybe next week. We'll do an episode on leading link, or our forks, and the history and some of the ways that they've been used in motocross. Scott Spence says, I used to race a Penton 125 in 73 through 74. Awesome. I think you told me that. Confed Yank, howdy from North Carolina. Good to see you. Just enjoyed weekend trip on my 100th anniversary Road King. I'm about to head to the store for something to sip on. Nice. Pinky Werewolf, joining late. Love the 450 Scrambler that you're coming out with. Thank you. Gertz Miller, Iowa City. Got into bicycling some years ago after a string of MCs. 61 BSA 250, 63 BSA 350, 65 Triumph 500, 87 BMW 800, having an A&W root beer. Awesome. Welcome. Jordy, Bridgestone's also made phenomenal bicycles, really far out designed rigs. Yeah, people say that Bridgestone motorcycle was also really ahead of its time, and sad that they discontinued them. 85 on, new record, fantastic. Scott Spence, Penton used the Sox engine. Thank you, Scott. They did. Jim says it's from 1964 through 66 with that tank. Okay, you're talking about the Ducati, I'm assuming? Yeah, nice. Thank you. So just the same model, but they changed the tank in that period. Awesome. Felix Brothers, joining late. New Griffin 450 looks like a winner. Can't wait to see it painted with the leather goods on it. Yeah, me too. Montesa. Yeah, thank you, Scott. Joel says, excited to receive Griffin 450 number 001. There we go. There's our first. So I think all the new Griffin guys are on. Great. Well, congratulations. The Spanish made some great dirt bikes. Yeah, they did. Stephen Galarza, 450-200 with the additional travel on the Griffin. Surprised you stood with the leading link limited dive. Yes. We've got some ideas about that, actually. We're considering using a linkage system on the leading link with the brake so that we can actually bring dive back in again, because it might be more helpful on an off-road bike. We're thinking about it. Sherco 290 was unstoppable. Nice. Oh, yeah, and Kyle says, don't forget the Honda CL and Baja 1000. Yes, absolutely. Well, you saw I mentioned the CL. And Kyle, you have the new Scrambler, is it 500 Honda? Really cool bike, which I got to test ride. Thank you for letting me do that. That was a really smooth machine. Ray says, my Sherco, oh yeah, got that. Old school. Hey, old school. Howdy, Richard, old school. A few sips of Mountain Cherry Shine. Nice. Good to see you. Silver Bullet joining late. Have a KLR and two DR6. You bridge the divide. Now have a Yamaha TW200. Nice. Loads of fun. Has giant rear tire. New Scrambler is tempting. Nice. A little more expensive than a TW200. They're amazingly inexpensive, as are the KLR. I was on a comment thread today, and people are comparing our bikes to the KLR and how cheap the KLR is. And I was like, there's no way in the world we're going to be able to beat Kawasaki at making a cheap dual sport, especially with what we do. How is the bike lift for 450s coming along? Really well. Yes, we've got more. I don't know if I should do it, but I could show you all the prototype. It works great, and it gets the rear wheel high enough off the ground that you can completely remove the wheel, no problem, and the front wheel on the 450. It's awesome. Chase, our production engineer, I'll call him, has been doing it up fantastically. I'm hoping this Friday he can have a close version of the working, another prototype that's close to production. Tom says, how would you compare the Griffin 450 to the Triumph 400? That's a good question. I don't have the specs for the Triumph 400 in front of me. It's heavier than our bike. It's probably going to put out a little more horsepower. I don't know a whole lot other than that about it. I need to do my research on that. Kelly says, what's the normal RPM at 55 on a 450? Okay, I think you've asked this question before, and I rode one, and I checked the tack. At 60, I think it's like 5,000 RPM. So at 55, I think you're going to be around $5,000. I'm pretty sure. Martin Drew says, congratulations, Joel. Nice. Kyle says, yes, a 500. So he's talking about he's got a 500, the new Honda 500 Scrambler. Very cool bike. Grant says the new Triumph, 400 pounds and 40 horsepower. So you got 10 additional horsepower and 100 extra pounds. Or no, not quite 100, but 75 extra pounds if you need that. And it only comes in 2 colors. Okay, let's talk about the Griffin itself. And not keep this picture of this KLR up on screen for the entire time we're here. Let me just log in here. I want to show you all the model that Charlie's been working on. I hope I won't destroy any secret knowledge, reveal all the secrets here, but I just wanted to give you all an idea of what we're looking at in terms of the model we've been working off of. So here's the Griffin. This is the model. This is where Charlie's been doing all his work on the Griffin. Let's let it load here. And of course, what you're seeing is very similar to what maybe if you've seen any versions I've done of the 450. Not everything is represented because we're still playing around with it. Don't pay attention to the seat necessarily. The fenders are turned off, so I apologize. I probably won't be able to figure out how to turn them on fast enough. There's some missing parts on here, but this is the model, and I just wanted to show you the suspension travel and kind of what we're thinking about. So if I showed you that Griffin or the Husqvarna front fender mount, it's very similar to this one. But here, let's just take a look at the front suspension. We've got we're shooting for about 5.5 inches of travel at the front, which, while it's not going to be like a modern dirt bike, also 5 inches of travel at the back. And don't worry, everything will not be able to hit the frame or anything like that. So while it's not going to be like a modern dirt bike, you're going to have some serious travel on this thing. And the leading link front end, based on the studies we've been doing of it and the testing we've been doing, is actually surprisingly fitting. Well, maybe I shouldn't say surprising. I mean, it did really work well in early scramblers as opposed to the telescopics. So we're excited to continue that kind of tradition in the Janus line and make sure that it really handles well. That's really been kind of the history of this bike. Is we've always had the plan to make it. When we got EPA certification on the Halcyon 450, we took out the Griffin 450 certification as well. So we've known this is something that we may do. We weren't positive about it, but we knew that we wanted to leave that opportunity. And so Charlie was, as you know, our engineer has been doing a lot of off-road riding and adventure riding over the summers, 2 years now in a row, multi-week trips out in Colorado, and taking a old Halcyon 450, which has almost no ground clearance, and doing some insane things with it, which actually has a long history. Back in the teens and 20s, people did some incredible off-road riding on like Bruff Superiors and stuff, or Triumphs and Velocets. But he's been getting really excited about the idea of an adventure bike, and so around in like November, he kind of showed up and said, "Hey, I've been working on this." Showed me a rough idea, and I was like, "Man, this is awesome! You've really got the basics of an incredible bike." And he's really taken this project and run with it. Much of the making this work we need to credit Charlie with, right down to this incredible rear swing arm. Check this out. So if we look at it from the bottom, it's asymmetrical. So here I'm highlighting the support structure is asymmetrical, which is just, I love asymmetry. And that allows this, which is the drive chain. I hope you all can see this stuff. What I just highlighted, the last thing I highlighted, and I'm unhighlighting now, that's the drive chain, to pass through it. And the reason for this support structure is a lot of bikes, just have a swing arm or they'll box them and make them really beefy. And we're more kind of in that traditional camp of tubular swing arms, but we wanted to make sure it was very rigid. So we've added this. This is really something that we've kind of stolen from the flat track kind of dictionary. A lot of flat track bikes will have a subframe or a swing arm that's got the brace on the bottom. And I just think I've always thought it looked really incredible. Our earliest Phoenix and Griffin models I designed with a sub or an under the swing arm support. We ended up not needing it. They did not need that. But with the 450, we thought we would do that. It might be a little bit overbuilt, and we might need to lighten it up a little bit because it doesn't need to be quite as beefy as it is, which just means the bike will be lighter, less unsprung weight. So he's really been instrumental in that. And then we've been reworking the front end. So this is not going to be your stock Halcyon 450 leading link suspension. This is going to be a variant with a longer fork leg and a modified geometry that will allow for both the suspension travel and the handling, the rake and the trail that we're looking for. So we are modifying this bike. It does not sit the same way. It has a different ride height. It has different rake. It has different trail. We've really been putting a lot of thought into the ability of this bike to be a dual sport motorcycle in the sense that it can ride on road and handle well, but also handle really well off road. I should mention that I should have mentioned this right away. The most important thing that you're going to see different on this bike, apart from the high fenders and the high exhaust, is the wheels. That was something that from the very beginning we decided that we wanted to not do like we did on the Griffin 250. The Griffin 250 is a classic scrambler. Just put some knobby tires on it and call it a day, which is great for that application. It's a lightweight bike. You can really ride the thing off-road just fine. You can't go too fast with the suspension, but you can have a lot of fun. With the Griffin, we want to be able to go a little faster. We want to be able to compete more, not in a sense of racing, but be competitive with other 500cc dual sport motorcycles on the market. So that meant we wanted the ability to run wheels that would handle well off-road. And so the modern standard for off-road riding is often 1721. And that's where you're going to find the most options in tire patterns. That's one thing that we've really struggled with on the Griffin 250 is finding aggressive tires that fit 1818. It's kind of hard to find. So with this bike, you will be able to find just about any dual sport, or even if you want to run dirt, like super aggressive dirt bike tires on it, take your pick. There's a ton of options. Dunlops, Michelin's, all the big brands, Battle Axes, all the ones that you want to ride off-road on are available in this size. So very excited about that. And the larger front wheel is much narrower. So like a dirt bike, it's going to handle cut in really well off-road, but also go over bumps easier with a larger wheel. And then the smaller wheel, of course, increases suspension travel and helps with the stance of the bike and the geometry. So yeah, those are the big differences. Standard Griffin handlebars. The tank is a little bit bigger than the stock Griffin tank. The 250 Griffin tank. And the seat we're still working on. I wish I could turn these fenders on so you can kind of get a glimpse of what they look like. Oh, there it is. There we go. There they are. So not everything's on this bike, obviously, but you're going to see how much travel is on that rear wheel. I mean, look at that. And again, we're not trying to be a dirt bike, but we want to be able to, and some of this stuff will be changed, but we want to be able to get as much travel as we can so that you can really enjoy the bike off-road. And boy, does it look good in person. Classic scrambler. And I think we're going to try and modernize it. I'm really excited about the ability to put a little bit of a fairing on this thing and make it more of an adventure bike, so that you can get on the highway and ride to Colorado and ride around off-road. I mean, it's not, I say highway, but get on the road and get places where there's off-road riding as well as riding off-road, which is the essence of a dual sport. I think this thing will be a great companion to something like a DR 650. The DR certainly has more horsepower, but you're not cruising on a DR at 100 miles an hour. It's just they don't do that, and they have a small fuel tank, and they're very similar. So really in the same category. Of course, last thing I'll say, just about this is that the engine, the XR 400. I mean, you couldn't pick a better motor for a dual sport motorcycle. That's what it was developed for, essentially. It's not a dirt bike engine. It's a enduro, which is another category of off-road riding, which is very similar to an adventure or a scrambler style bike. I would say an enduro is like the modern word for scrambler. So yeah, great engine for the purpose. Last thing, the oil tank. The Halcyon oil tank is this big thing that comes down behind the wheel. We've been able to get around the same or about maybe I think a little bit more oil in this upper tank here. And one of the things that Charlie really wants to do, we'll see if it makes it to production, is a big visible sight glass down the side of that. So there you have it. What time do we have? Oh, my word, we're actually on schedule here. And we got 82 people. This is great. Let's see if there are any questions. I really want to if you have any questions on the 450 Scrambler, the Griffin 450, do shout out, because I'd love to do my best to answer them. Let's see. Let me go back to the video so I can see the comments. Tom Kimball says the Triumph has no class. Well, I think it's a pretty good looking bike. The one that I don't really like is the new Himalayan. I love the old Himalayan, the 400, but the new one is, I don't know if they lost the kind of lines that I really liked on the Himalayan. It just doesn't have the same stance. It looks more like a kind of wimpy modern dual sport, which maybe that's what they're shooting to do, is make a competitive modern dual sport motorcycle that can go up against the likes of a DR or a KLR or whatever. But I really liked, for my money, I liked the original, the tank on that Griffin, on the Himalayan was really nice. Himalayan was 430 pounds and put out 24 horsepower. So this is definitely we can actually beat the Himalayan on those specs, the 400 that is. I think the new one, I'm not sure what the horsepower is, maybe 40, 38, 39, 40, which is basically like a KLR. KLR puts out like something like, I think my old one put out like 39 or 40 horsepower. And I can tell you right now, the Halcyon 450 holds its own against the KLR, no problem with the reduced weight. So this bike, with the weight it has, will definitely be able to handle a KLR on road and definitely off road. The KLR weighs, 400 plus pounds. So not really a bike that I've done it on the KLR, but it's a heavy, tall bike. Bringing up tall, that also says one of the goals of this bike is to have a low seat height. And so we were really kind of balancing this shock travel, leading link suspension, and a low seat height. So it's a compromise to make a bike that I think will fit the bill for the most number of people. But we're really targeting initially is maximum off-road capability. And then we're going to offer it with shorter travel shock absorbers that you can lower that ride height if you so choose. But the compromise there will be that you don't get as much travel off-road, which is fine if that's what you choose. Rev says, are you changing the gearing on the Griffin, and are you keeping the 21-inch front wheel on the front? Yes, we're planning on keeping the 21-inch wheel on the front. We are not going to change the final drive, the final gearing, but in order to achieve the same gearing at the back, we have to change the sprockets because it's a different size wheel. In my experience, and probably some other 450 owners will chime in here, Halcyon owners that is, the gearing on the Halcyon is pretty short, and so I think we don't need to re-gear this for off-road riding. It's going to be very appropriate the way it is. So, and we can't really change it with EPA certification, but I don't just say that as an excuse. I think it really will be a good balance. Old School says, what's new for my Halcyon 994? Add-ons, extras, windscreen, floorboards. Yeah. We have plenty. I'm not sure I have time to go into all the upgrades and options. I will cover them in the next Ramblestream. I do apologize. I want to answer any questions on the Scrambler because this is the Scramble stream, but we'll get there. Sorry about that. What engine mapping changes are you doing for the Griffin 450 versus Halcyon 450? We're not going to really do a whole lot of different engine mapping. It's really, I'm quite pleased with how this engine handles in the 450 Halcyon category. I think it's going to really adapt itself possibly even better to the Griffin for an off-road machine. That's really what that engine is really what was originally designed for. Brent, sorry, I missed your question. Why did you select 17 versus 18 rear wheel on the 450? I'm getting that question a lot, mainly for the standard tire availabilities. That's just much more options in a 17. We could go with an 18, but the tire selections really drop off with that. And it's really what it's kind of proven as a really good option for a dual sport. I know there are different tire selections on modern dirt bikes, but you're going to find the best kind of compromise with a 1721. It's what my KLR runs. Gary says, what engine? Oh, no, we got that one. Felix Brothers, Halcyon 450 at 60 miles an hour is around 48. Okay, great. 55 miles an hour is about 45. Okay, thank you all for that. That's very helpful. I can never remember all these. You know me and specifications. It doesn't matter. I just like riding. Let's see. Sorry, I'm jumping into these comments. I like the silver and light blue you have there. Michael says that. That's just because that's what the model, we usually use those colors in our models. But maybe we can base a motorcycle off of the model colors. We got 86 people on right now. Definitely a new record. This is fantastic. Brent says, will a 21-inch wheel fit on the front of a Griffin 250? The answer definitively on that one is no. I think it would fit, but you would run out of your fender. Your wheel would start hitting your fender. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, it's going to be really, really tight. It's going to hit your exhaust. It's not designed for a 21. Eric Fritz, do you think you'll use the Biltwell pegs you use on the Halcyon or something more suited? Well, funny you should ask. I'm already working on it. So I don't know did I show you all these? Let me put some paper behind it so you can see it. Here, let's go to the big screen here. Funny you should ask. I think I showed you all these and kind of made an excuse like, oh, these are for more aggressive riding or something. These are the Griffin 450 foot pegs. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the last Ramblestream. I can't remember anything, but they are too beefy. We're going to have to lighten these up a little bit, cut off some from the bottom. But the goal, this is a standard motocross style peg. You can see that if you have mud on your boot, it'll just pass, right through, and it's serrated, so your motocross boot will grip it. This is a standard motocross style peg, and I'm really happy with the fact that we were able to make this ourselves. This is a single piece of steel. It's welded on this corner, but everything else is bent around. And the middle, if you notice, I don't know if I can show you, the middle is higher than the sides, so that you're always going to have, even if there's mud caked on there, you're always going to have some abrasive surface to grip your boot with, so you won't slide off. And we're making it really, really strong. It'll bolt directly onto your existing foot peg or our current foot peg. We could put this on a Halcyon if you wanted. We had one break at the Biltwell 100, and we've been thinking about that a lot since then. So a little bit of redesign necessary on those, but I'm really excited. Let's see. We're working on all those upgrades. We want to have upgrades available when this bike comes out, unlike with the Halcyon. So it's going to be a challenge, but that's kind of my task. I'm letting Charlie take the reins with the Griffin tooling and bringing that ready for production, but I'm going to try and work on a lot of the upgrades. The upgrades, speaking of that we have in mind, are 88 people on the stream. Let's hit 90 here. Are the bare minimum that we want and that I'm shooting for is for it to have a cargo rack so that you can carry gear. We will also, I hope, be able to offer a pannier, like a metal pannier system. I think that would be so cool. Really take that adventure bike, go on an adventure, keep your gear safe in like an aluminum panniers. And yeah, that'll be great. So cargo rack, crash bars. So highway bars for this one are going to be really important to protect that engine. If we want you to go off road, you need to be able to let it fall over without having to worry about breaking your header or chipping your engine cases. Bash plate, the prototype already has that one on there. And then what else? That's about it. Those would be really good basics to have. Possibly a passenger seat, but it's not really designed for that. But I mean, same thing. I think a lot of people will really want one. So yeah, a cargo rack / pillion on this would be really nice. So yeah, what was I talking about? I was answering questions. Biltwell pegs, yeah. How much more fuel in the Scram? We're working on that. We're trying to get 2.5 gallons, but I don't think we're quite there yet. So it's not going to have 7 gallons or 5 gallons like your KLR. But one of the things, in addition to the pannier rack system, is I want to have a big roto pack that clips on the side, and you can have extra fuel in that roto pack. I think it'll look cool. It'll extend your riding, and it'll fit our aesthetic. Mike Webster says, so this is basically an XR 450 Honda? Yeah, it is. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's actually the radial 4-valve. If you haven't, please visit our website or just Google Janus Motorcycles 450 engine. And I have a 2-part blog series on the history of the SWM 450 engine, going all the way back to Honda winning. I think they won. They raced in Dakar with the 500cc version of this. And they're still in production with the 650, XR 650. It's a great engine, very reliable, and still features that dry sump with the radial 4-valve combustion chamber. Pete Marino. Hey, Pete. Will you have the rack with the solo saddlebag like the 250? Yeah, I think that's going to be the easiest one to do because of the high exhaust. Doing one on the other side, a bag on the other side, we'll be able to do, but it's going to stick out further, which is very common on dual sports. I'm thinking that we can have a big cargo rack on one side and then the roto pack, because it's narrower, could sit outside the exhaust. The other thing we're working on is U.S. Forest Service spark arrestor. We need to figure out how to do that if people are going to ride off-road. That's going to be a big thing. So we're trying to balance a lot of different threads here. Ken Plums. Hey, Ken. Plumber. 450 Halcyon number 90. I will be bringing her to you in about a week for maintenance. Oh, that's awesome. Looking forward to seeing you. Repairs and upgrades. Dumped her February 9th, unfortunately. Healing now. I am very sorry to hear that, Ken. Hope you and the motorcycle are healing, and I'm sure when it gets here, it will heal very well. J NW Metal. What do the rear lights look like? They're gonna. If you let's pull up the rendering here. We're going over time here, folks. I apologize, but it's we're getting questions still, and if you want to stick around, I'll answer them. Motorcycles, Griffin 450. It's going to look like the same headlights we use on the Halcyon and the Griffin. It'll look very similar to what we run on the Griffin 250. There's the rendering. It's a little dim. Oh wait, I don't have it. Did I miss showing you all something? Here I am talking away, and I've got the wrong screen up here. Did you all see any of the stuff I was talking to you about? Yeah, you did. Okay. Well, there it is. You can see the same light as on the Griffin 250. It's DOT. We stock them. It makes a lot of sense. It's one of the ways we can not charge more for these. People complain about the prices. Up to 87 watching. Nice. Is there a catalytic converter? Yes, there is a catalytic converter. Not in the prototype, but there will be one. Just like on the Griffin 250, we have a cat in the exhaust. We have to. Any plans for a belt drive on the scrambler? Not at this time. No plans for a belt drive on it. Although we're meeting with Gates to explore if we can do a belt drive conversion kit on some of our bikes. We'll see. No promises there. Will there be kickstart? Not at present. We do not have that ability from SWM. They're not making this with a kickstart, unfortunately. But the KLR does not have a kickstart. I always remind people of that. The Griffin 450 might benefit from a cush drive. Is that something you are thinking about or perhaps testing? Shows it's not necessary. Well, actually, a cush drive would be even less necessary on a Griffin than it would on a Halcyon. Cush drives they're mainly used where there's a lot of power and where you're making solid contact, which would be more like asphalt. Off-road, you have so much more, or gravel, it's less, they're used less. Actually, that's why the wheels that we use are off of a Yamaha. They're based on the design of a Yamaha YZ450, which is a dirt bike, and that's why they don't have cush drive. 88 watching now. 89. Yep, we got 89 on there, Brent. Nice. Phone a friend. Let's go 90. Rare Breed. Hey, good to see you. When do you have a to-do valve job on the 450? It's a lot higher. It's a lot higher than on the 250. I can't remember these spec things. Let's look it up real quick. I want to say it's like 5,000 miles. If somebody knows before me, you can tell what I care about. let's see. We got valve adjust 5,000 miles. Yep, 5,000. Okay, let's hand guards, hard guards, hand guards. Yeah, it's got the prototype, not this rendering. The rendering does have them, but the let's actually look at some photographs here. I'm sorry, I'm all over. There's so much going on that there's so much to cover here. I wanted to show you all some pictures from when we took it and just really gave it a hard time. Here, up at Moto Camp. Here, save the good things for those of y'all who stick around last. Took it up to Michigan a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just going to go past all the pretty pictures. You know, some of y'all have seen these before it got trashed. There's a 250, a lovely 250 after being mudded around. They're the two of them together. But I wanted to show you. We wanted to look at the handguards. It's got handguards on it. We got our classic aluminum handguards, which can be powder coated. Awesome. Work really well. We call them our corn detasselers. But while we're at it, let's take a look at some mud. Getting that 450 broken in. There's some mud on it. And then we got some of it. Where is it going? Here we go. Here's Charlie doing what engineers do best. It did really well. All the guys that were at the moto camp, most of them were off-road riders, and they had their criticisms of it, mainly suspension travel, but they were really enjoying it and having ripping on it, ripping around on it, not ripping on the design. So anyway, a lot of fun pictures there. My favorite, which I think some of you may have seen, is the one of it in the frosty morning with frost on it. Really cool. Let's see. 90 viewers briefly. Nice. Love the bear trap foot pegs. Yep. Thanks. I'll look up the 450 article. Thanks. Yes, please do. Would you guys? I'll put the 450 article link in the description for this video for the engine, and please check it out. I will remember to do that. Rare Breed says, would you guys ever redesign the Phoenix and put a 450 in it? I wouldn't put it past us. Nicholas G, is the 450 frame sealed off so road, water, and dirt can't get in the tubes? Yes, it is. It is completely sealed. That is awesome. Okay, NW Metalbug. Okay, that rear fender wraps around more for a light mount. Oh yeah. I see. Yep. Yeah, it does. Yeah, see, it goes back further. 91 says Brent. My buddy swapped out the 250 with a 450 Honda CR and it rips. No kidding. Dr. Shocker 600 says, you put a 450 in a 250? Nice. 93. I didn't see that. Awesome. It's the fastest Janus in the world. He'll put money on it. I bet he'll win too. How does the header angle compare to the Griffin 250? It's going to be quite graceful. We're working really hard. It's going to be that's one of the things Charlie's working on. We have a little bit more room to work with it coming out. We're working on pairing the length of the headers so that we get the same resonance and back pressure in the exhaust. Okay, well, I think I've made it through all the comments. We are 10 minutes over. If you have any last questions, post them up now, and I will go over upgrades and options in our next stream. Make a note to do that. Go over upgrades next time. I have not finished my boot. All right, folks. I wish you all a pleasant evening. I hope I was able to answer some questions. And I will post up a link to the 450 engine post. And I will also post up, we'll save the link, the suspension for another Ramblestream. Maybe next one. In the meantime, thank you all there's 91 people on right now. There we go. Fantastic. All the way to the end, 10 minutes over. Thank you all for everyone hanging out on the Ramblestream this evening. It's been a pleasure. This has been an especially fun one to be able to share all this new news for you. We have more news coming. I should mention, I think we're going to be having a flat track team who's going to be campaigning the Griffin 450 at a number of events, including Sturgis. We're going to be at Sturgis. We're going to be sharing more news. We got a lot of stuff coming. We got a lot of upgrades in the works, and a lot of energy is going to be going into this Griffin to be able to make it, bring it into production as fast as our plans have. So thank you all again. I will catch you all on the next Ramblestream. If you have any questions, one more thing is 93 people on is we have an article up on Ride Apart. We have an article up on Bike Exceef, and we have an article up on ADV Rider. And we're getting some people who it's the classic comments. They don't understand the price point versus the displacement. So if you have any opinions on that, head on over to Bike Exceef, Bike, B-I-K-E, Exceef, E-X-I-F. Read the story. It's a great article. They did a really good job. Check out the comment section and add your thoughts if you have any. Same one at Ride Apart, Ride, R-I-D-E-A-P-A-R-T, and also at ADV Rider. All websites that we frequent very often. We're going to be making a big splash. It's a lot of new people hearing about what we're doing, and I think that they're going through the initial shock of saying, "What are these people doing? What is Janus?" So add your voice. Help us explain what we're doing. And thank you very much. I will catch you all on the next Ramblestream. It's been a pleasure. Good evening.